Hello there, welcome to the garden. You may notice things look a little bit different behind me. I'm getting really serious now about getting the fall garden in. We're getting in here to the second-ish week of September, and I really want to start planting. I'm really dedicated to having a super good fall winter. For me, I'm in zone 7A, so I can have kind of like a winter garden too, and I'm getting really serious about planning that out and getting that in. So for the next few videos, you're going to see a lot of planting going on and also a lot of removing of summer crops. So I did move around my containers a little bit and set up a few over here in this area. This is kind of like one of my main display areas. I wanted to feature the corn, which I'll show you that in a second. And then I also wanted to set up a few containers for some container greens, which is what I'm going to plant today. So if you've been around here, you know I love container greens. I feel like every year, spring and fall, I kind of make the same video, but I love growing greens in containers. I just think it's the best way. You can have a little salad garden almost anywhere that that you have space basically for a pot to grow some greens. It's a really fun way to have a little bit of a garden, a little salad garden. And it's just a nice way to grow greens too, because they're up out of the dirt, they're not in the raised beds and getting a bunch of splashback and all of that. So it's just a good way all around. So I'm going to show you those containers. We'll talk a little bit about the seeds that I am going to start, and then we'll see where we are. I'm really getting serious. Last night I pulled out all my seeds and got some, fall planning going, started to figure out what I want to do in the different beds, and I'm really excited. I think there's going to be some really good things coming. But first, we are going to plant up these containers. Okay, so I moved the corn here because this I just wanted to feature prominently in the fall garden. This is my container corn, and you can see it's starting to get the top little tassels. So it's basically maxed out its height. This is, I believe, what did I plant here? The red stalker corn. So it has these really pretty dark stems. Now, it is not as tall, of course, as it would normally be. In ground, this would be like a 6-foot tall corn plant. In the container, it's maybe about 2. This one's maybe 3 feet tall. So it's not as big as it would have gotten just in ground growing, but I love it in the container. I think it's so pretty, and it really looks like the perfect little fall kind of plant, and then it'll dry and just be really cute, and we'll just keep decorating around it. I'm sure we'll be getting pumpkins and things. We do have a few mums, but here are our containers. So I have a variety of containers. I love these little low containers. Oop, there's a ground cherry. You always end up finding ground cherries everywhere. I love these little low containers for greens, because greens don't have, like lettuces and stuff, don't usually have a super huge root system. So you don't need super deep pots. But it is nice when you have a little container display to have a variation of sizes. And as I did in my last video, I cut out some of these chicken wire circles. This one doesn't have a circle, this is just folded over. But this is to hopefully keep the squirrels out of these containers. In the past, I have had beautiful greens in containers, and then they would often get ruined by the squirrels coming in and digging them out. So that's what this is for. So I am going to fill these up with potting mix, and then we're gonna plant directly over top of the chicken wire. So that's just like a protection. So I'm better take this off, and we'll get some potting mix in here. right, now we are going to seed directly over top. So I'm just going to put some lettuce seeds. I'll talk more about these varieties, but basically when you are seed sowing in a container greens like this, you can plant them pretty close together because we are going to be growing these, at least my plan is to grow them as baby greens. So I don't need them to be far apart because they aren't going to be creating heads. We're just going to grow them close together, and things like bunching onions, they grow in bunches, so you want them to be close together as well. So it's pretty easy when it comes to planting because you just want all of it to be, just a handful of seeds. You can grow them close together because you're going to grow them up as baby greens, and then just harvest the larger leaves in the kind of cut and come again method, and then you'll just have this continuous harvest. And it was super easy to plant them right over the chicken wire, and then I'll just kind of like I could scratch it in, but honestly I usually surface sow my lettuce. I'll maybe sprinkle a tiny bit of potting soil back over the top of them now, and then be done. But that worked pretty well, so that was good. So I'm just going to go back in and grab a handful of potting soil and sprinkle it back over the top, and then we'll talk about what varieties I chose and why I selected them. Not very much potting soil at all, just the tiniest bit. There we go. All right, let's chat about the seeds that I selected. So this is a really good time to get your greens planted. If you're in a similar zone to me, you're gonna have enough time where it's still a little warm enough, there's still enough sunlight that things will actually grow, but you're not so late that everything's just gonna be stunted by the cold basically. Or if I found that if I start planting in October, it's a little too late and things just don't have enough sunlight and warmth and everything to get started. So all these seed packets are super dirty because it's a little wet out here. I went ahead and planted some of this Italian arugula. Now, typically, I think my favorite arugula is the slow bolt arugula. I get that from MIgardner. But I just had this seed packet and I thought it would be a good one. Arugula is such a great plant to grow in the cooler temperatures. It's pretty, at least for me, and I know it's different in everyone's garden, so what's easy for me may not be easy for you, but for me, arugula is like one of the most consistent. It always comes up quickly. It's always one of the first ones to germinate. It's always one of the easiest to grow, and it just like is delicious and peppery. An arugula salad to me is perfection. It's like my favorite green of all time and the easiest green for me to grow, so that's amazing. It says typically in England it's grown as a summer crop. They always have fun information on Renee's Garden Seeds. They have lots of different things, but of course for us we want to grow it in the cold, and it's just I want to see how many days till baby greens. I guess it doesn't say, but anyways, this is gonna be really, for me usually, I think probably by this time in October, I'll be harvesting baby greens. Usually it doesn't take very long for it to get started and get going. And I actually did a second pot of arugula right here in this container as well, because I just figured it'd be fun to have more. And I know it's one of those salad greens that I'm really gonna eat. I really went for a lot of my favorites because I just want to actually really utilize the garden, and sometimes just going for your favorites is the way to do that. Although trying new things is good too. And arugula is pretty cold hardy, so that should keep going for me well into some frosts. Of course, once the frost hit, it's not really going to keep growing as much, but it will usually hold pretty well unless we get a super intense frost. I also did some Forellenschluss lettuce. Now this is a really beautiful lettuce. It's kind of got like these little specks of brown in it, and it's a really pretty romaine lettuce. Now romaine lettuce does do pretty well for heat, And I have found that Frauenschluss germinates well for me even when it's warm. So it is pretty warm right now. Our highs are still in the low 80s Fahrenheit during the day. We're getting down to the 60s or 70s at night. So I know that the Frauenschluss is going to do okay with those temperatures. I know it will germinate, and it will just be a really delicious green that I really enjoy. It grows really well in containers, and I've had such good success with it growing really close together like that in the containers. For baby greens, some greens I think do better than others in that like densely packed kind of setup, and I have found that the Frauenschluss does super well with that. It will be really happy even growing close to all of its friends. You're not gonna have an issue with, I don't know, the greens getting like diseases and stuff. I've always had just really good luck where they've been really healthy and grown really well. There is a certain point with container greens, with any container green, where they just kind of max out the space because they don't have their full room to grow to their full capacity. Every plant that you grow as baby greens will get to a point where it just kind of like stops, and then you can just replant. But that's why I'm gonna keep sowing different things here for the next, more containers of greens and stuff for the next couple weeks. And so hopefully there'll be a bit of a succession and we'll have a lot of things kind of growing. Then I did some red beard bunching onions. Now, bunching onions are another great container. It's not really a green, kind of, a really great container plant. They want to grow in bunches anyways. You can grow them close together. That's perfect. And they do well in containers. They don't mind it. I do fertilize mine a little bit in containers because, you know, they are in the onion family, so they like their heavy feeders, but they grow so beautifully. And then for me, they will hold all winter, and I can just keep growing them, keep harvesting off them all winter long, and they will do beautifully with that, and I'll have absolutely no problem. So that's pretty cool. And this red beard is just a fun variety because it's got like that red kind of color. So there's nothing really super special about this variety other than that color is just kind of fun and a little different. So it's cool to have that. And then I have some bronze mignonette lettuce. And I picked this one because it is actually a Siberian lettuce, and it's supposed to be really, really cold hardy. So I'm actually gonna plant this in my raised beds as well, and I will show you that when I get that started in the next few days here. But I wanted to do some in a container too and just try it out. It's supposed to be just really, really good. Plants produce oak leaf style leaves with a bronze tint. The lettuce will produce late into the winter and will tolerate heat more than other varieties too. And so that's kind of nice because hopefully it can actually handle, you know, these little warmer temperatures right now. But then if it lasts through the winter, especially uncovered, that would be really cool. So I may put this in some other containers as well, kind of try to focus in on a few varieties so that basically, yeah, it'll do well. There are more heat tolerant lettuces, there are more cold tolerant lettuces, and so you kind of want to think about that a little bit. So I'm excited to try this bronze mignonette. That should be pretty fun. I also harvested a few zinnia flowers. I'm trying to decide when it comes to the raised beds whether or not I want to start pulling out some of the bigger plants. I pulled out a few things. You saw me pull out the eggplants. These tomatoes, I think I might pull them out pretty soon. I don't know. It's so hard to make a decision because they are still producing a little bit. And like the zinnias in this bed, they're still flowering. They've got some buds on them, so there's still more flowers coming. And they actually, this year, the zinnias are not covered in powdery mildew, which typically they do get a lot of powdery mildew and I have to pull them out. So it's hard to want to pull them out. But on the other hand, yeah, I really want to get this fall garden in. Now, the nice thing about the container garden is that you're able to just go right ahead and plant containers and stuff because you can just pop in a container here and there. So if you are really on the edge with pulling out, you know, whether or not to pull out different summer plants, go ahead and try maybe, you know, doing some containers, because then you don't have to worry about pulling things out. But I think, I don't know. I think it might be time. It's once I start pulling plants out and I start moving things around, then I kind of get into the spirit of it, and then I'm just like ready to pull them out. So I may come back out and rip out a bunch of these things. We'll see how it goes. I'm kind of just ready to do all the fall planting and get everything a really good start. And I am also going to pull out a few more containers to do a bit more of the container lettuce growing in this area, and I will share with you the varieties that I decide to plant in those containers. And I'm also going to do some grow bags for winter, so when I get that figured out, I will share that as well. The theme of the fall garden for me this year is to take my time and go step by step and make sure I'm really planning out exactly what I want. So that is what I am attempting to do, but it feels good to have those containers planted. We got a couple days of rain coming up too, so that'll be perfect. I'm just gonna water them in, and then hopefully the next couple days will be cool and rainy and everything will just germinate, and I will keep you posted as everything comes up and as we make all the other changes to the garden. I did a little bit of work in the Unheated Greenhouse, so I will share that with you as well. Stay tuned on all of that, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I will talk to you again soon. Bye.